Welcome to the Mormon Medium Podcast, where we'll talk about spirituality, the paranormal, religion, and my journey in becoming a Mormon medium. I'm Nannette Ride. Thanks for listening. Now let's go have some fun.
Don't be afraid. Close your eyes. There's a moon overhead, but the sun will rise. Blood on our lips, such a poisonous bite. The sound of our hearts go bump, bump, bump in the night.
Hello and welcome to the Mormon Medium Podcast. Today we are going to talk about something really fucking awesome, and you're going to love it. I thought I would.
Shocking.
I thought I would get that F-bomb out of the way because I'm pretty sure it's going to come out at some point during the show. What are you pointing at?
There are birds up there on our speaker building a nest.
Son of a bitch.
A female and a male.
No.
They have a little. One has a red breast and one does not. Oh,
They don't get to do
the
that.
female is sitting there. I think she's on eggs.
No.
Look.
No. Damn it.
Sorry.
That was such a good beginning.
Are you going to really keep that?
Oh, yeah, I loved that. It flowed so well. It really
Get
did.
that F-bomb out of the way.
Exactly. I'm Brad, and I'm here with Nannette Ride, the Mormon medium.
Ooh.
Right? That sounds so occulty, so forbidden. Will you be my forbidden fruit, darling?
I'm very desirable.
I love it. Thank you. She's on one today, folks. It's going to be an interesting episode. So we're going to talk about a couple of really cool things today. We're going to start off answering a couple of things that have been thrown out there. We've had people say, hey, tell us about tarot cards. So we thought that would be something really good to talk about and to just share our thoughts on them and what we think and believe about tarot cards.
They're pretty fun. I can't wait to talk about them. You actually are the one that got me started on tarot cards when I met you.
I guess
I had
that's
never
true.
even touched one.
That's funny. That's right, because you were super Mormon even when we met.
Yeah, when we started dating, I was still super Mormon.
Yeah, all of our kids think that I completely derailed Nan's spiritual journey.
You left me alone, though, to find my own journey, which was really cool. But yeah, you showed me your tarot deck.
I showed you my deck, baby.
He has a really cool dragon tarot deck, and he had it all neatly put away and everything. And I looked at him for a while, but I'd never even held one and thought it was just so pretty. The artwork on it was just beautiful and had a good feel to it.
Yeah, it was like in a game closet. And she was like, hey, what's this? This looks cool. And I'm like, oh, those are tarot cards. And she's like, what? You have tarot cards? We couldn't even have face cards in my house when I grew up.
But it's true, growing up that you were told, when I was a teenager, you were told that you couldn't have face cards because they were evil. And so we didn't in our house. So we never had anything like that.
So why do you think face cards were considered evil? Is that just a Mormon thing, or is that something that's, do you know? I don't know if that's something that's in other religions or
I
not.
just remember the prophet telling us at a general conference that we weren't supposed to have face cards. I always thought it had something to do with gambling, maybe, because gambling was considered really bad, and lots of people were wasting their money on gambling.
Yeah.
Which is why you can't gamble in the state of Utah.
Well, you do have to know when to hold them and know when to show them.
It's fold 'em, babe.
Well, God damn it. How about know when to
fold 'em, fold 'em.
know when to walk away, know when to run? How about that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Kenny Rogers. Freaking Kenny Rogers police over here. That's the interesting thing is you are all about the lyrics. I'm just kind of about the music and bebop along. I'll make up my own damn lyrics.
I know you totally do, but you're really good to know if you hear the music, you know who is playing it. And I usually don't know who's playing it, but I know every word of the lyrics. So balance, right?
Exactly. Even songs that we've never even heard of before. It's really, really interesting.
Really?
I think so. It's a talent you have. It's like almost like the special witchcraft that you have. And I did say special.
You said special. What's that?
I don't know. Words just come out of my mouth sometimes that mean
Is that a
absolutely
Bradism?
Yeah, it must be. I'm going to just I'm going to trademark that word right now. Special.
Were you trying to say special?
It might be similar to a chubble. I'm going to go outside and hold my chubble. and then I'll dig a hole with it.
You need to stop. I cannot laugh this whole episode. Oh my god.
So yeah, tarot cards, it's interesting. We talk about face cards, right? When you were a kid, you couldn't have them. Here's something kind of cool is the tarot deck actually traces back to like the 15th century in Europe, and it was created as a game, like playing cards or poker, like we look at it now. But it was a game that was created for the nobles, and they were the only ones who were really wealthy enough to have playing cards. What they would do is they would actually commission artists to draw playing cards with members of their families on them. So you might have Queen Nannette as one of your cards.
Wouldn't that be so cool?
Yeah.
To have like your own deck, or even to find one of those really old decks that was made for some noble family.
Right. Be
How
super
cool would that be?
So yeah, they would have picture cards with different family members on them, and that's kind of the origin of the tarot cards. And the families would get fancier and fancier, you know, because it's always about keeping up with the Joneses or outdoing the Joneses. And so you would have these ornate decks with all of the different symbolism that would reflect things that were significant about that person. But it didn't start at all as any type of divination or any type of spiritualism or anything to do with the occult. Like everyone's like, oh my God, you're all culty now and you're into devil worship because you play with tarot cards, right?
Yeah, I always was taught that tarot cards were evil, right? Growing up, I always thought that. So I never touched anything like that, let alone face cards.
Yeah.
But I remember when we were first together, your mom told us about the story of reading just plain playing cards to a friend.
Yeah.
And Brad is extremely gifted. Like he has all the clairs. His mom is extremely gifted and has been throughout her whole life. And at one time she was reading some cards and kind of BSing her way through them, but just using her intuition about it, and told this lady all about the stuff about her life. And then the lady came back to her later in her life and was like, oh, all these things that you said came true. And she was like, I was just BSing you. I wasn't even doing anything. But literally she read the cards from her intuition. And isn't that really what tarot is?
Yeah, it is. Well, that's the thing about it, right? There's a lot of controversy over, is there anything to tarot cards, or is it literally just bullshitting, right? Like, I'm bullshitting you and telling you these things are what's going to happen. And then you go, oh, if that's going to happen, then wow, I'll watch out for that. And then you subconsciously make that happen.
You know, you could. I guess you could, but I don't think that hasn't been my experience with it. But I also don't have the intention of doing that when I do a tarot card reading. They're just kind of fun for me. They're kind of a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I love to get surprised. I like to see if, they match up. And so it's just fun. I mean, we have 27 decks of oracle and tarot cards here in my energy room, and we kind of collect them because it's beautiful artwork. But really, it's all intuition, right?
Yeah. Well, and look, with great power comes great responsibility. So you can't just tell people something that's garbage. You have to actually be ethical about it, right? And say, hey, here's how I interpret these decks. And that's kind of the thing, is these decks have become more of a divination tool in the last several centuries, right?
Do you think it's because people tend to get lazy with their own lives, and so they want other people to tell them what to do? They want answers for their life, and so they want other people to tell them if they can't make a decision, draw a card for me, tell me what it's going to be, and then I'm going to do it. Do you think that's it?
I don't. I don't think it's a lazy factor at all. I don't think that at all. I think we all need advice sometimes, and we all need some help making decisions sometimes. I mean, how many times have I been faced with a difficult decision and I consult you and say, hey, Nan, what do you think about this? Right? I don't think it's a lazy thing at all. I think it's a smart thing, because why would you not gather additional input to make decisions?
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I do it. I know you do it.
Well, yeah.
And why not grab from every single tool at your disposal?
Well, and here's the thing. Tarot cards are great for a meditation. You can look at a card and look at all the different symbolism in it, and different decks have different symbolism, right? So like one card from one deck might mean something different to you than the same card from a different deck because of the different artwork.
It's true. Yeah, it's very true. And what you're supposed to do is, read it with your intuition and not the book that comes with the tarot deck. So,
Well, and that is cool because you do have a deck, or a book that will explain each card, right? When you buy most decks, and it'll say, okay, here is what this card can be interpreted as.
right. So in a tarot deck, you have a major arcana, the minor arcana, and then you have the symbols, right? So the minor arcana consists of 4 different suits. So your cups, your swords, your wands, and your pentacles. And each suit aligns with one of the 4 natural elements.
All right, so here's the definition. It says that some historians have suggested that suits on a deck were meant to represent 4 classes of medieval society.
Interesting.
Right? Cups and chalices, which would be the modern hearts, stood for the clergy. Swords, which are spades, for the nobility or the military. Coins, which is the diamonds, for merchants. And batons, or wands, which are now clubs, for the peasants.
That's really interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah. Well, and in the tarot, though, the pentacles is earth, the wands are fire, the cups are water, and the swords are air. So you've got the 4 elements of the earth.
Got it. That's super
And that's
cool.
in your minor arcana. Each of the cups, the swords, the pentacles, they each go from an ace all the way to 10, and then they go to a knight, a king, and a queen. So just like your regular cards, each one has all of those.
Got
Kinda
it.
cool.
So it aligns very closely with standard playing cards.
It does, except for it has a major arcana. So when the major arcana cards turn up in a tarot spread, they add weight and importance to the reading. So you have different really cool ones like the World and the Fool and the Moon and the Wheel of the Year and Strength and
The Tower,
Chariot, the Lovers.
The Devil.
We get the Lovers a lot.
We do.
The High Priest, the Empress. They all have major weight with them. So I think they're really cool.
So when you say major weight, what does that mean? So like if I have a reading and I have one of these major arcana pop up, what does that mean when you say it adds major weight to a reading?
It relates to spiritual matters, and it reveals our relationship to a particular archetype of the card. So it kind of strengthens. So if you get an empress, and then you also get, a queen of pentacles, you get them together, you're looking at a woman that's coming into her power, that she's queenly. And then you've got, someone that's just very first beginning out into her intuition and things like that. So they go together. So a major arcana will go with whatever cards are with it. Does that make sense?
Got it. So it basically just makes it more powerful, right? So it's like, okay, this is really important now versus this is pretty important.
Yes. It makes it an emphasis on it.
Emphasis?
Emphasis.
If you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable?
Oh, you're making me hungry.
How does a syllable make you hungry?
All I heard was salad.
Oh, yeah, salad. So, Nan, obviously, a lot of people think that tarot cards have this relationship or a connection to the spiritual realm, right? And to evil. What do you think about that?
I think it's about your intention, really. If you have the intention to draw cards, for evil, I guess you're going to get that. That's never been my intention. I don't dabble in that kind of thing. It's always, light that I work with, and my intention is always goodness and truth. But I always stand astounded when they're right. I'm always surprised, which makes it fun because I'm just like, oh yeah. I don't know if this is going to be true. But then you're like, what? Especially like when I'm shuffling them or moving them around and a card will flip out or 3 will flip out.
Like just drop out of the deck.
Like drop on the floor.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like somebody came and threw them on the floor and you're like, okay, I'll pick that up.
Yeah.
And then you set it down. Or like the time we were shuffling them in the kitchen at the farmhouse and one fell out, like flew out of your deck, went into the dog water. We dried it off really good and it was fine. And we put it back in the deck. And then later on, you redrew that same card and we're like, I guess I have to have that card today.
Yeah.
And it was perfect for your day. It really was. I don't know how or why they work other than it's your intuition, and there's nothing wrong or evil about your intuition. It's part of your spiritual gifts, and it's part of, sharpening that gift.
So let me ask you this. We already talked about how you were told, face cards are bad. Under the Mormon religion, are tarot cards considered bad? If face cards are bad, I would think tarot cards are like on the next level, right? Like you're basically
Right. So-
you're basically communing with Satan at that point.
They're actually considered part of the occult and divinatory tools. So yes, but I just couldn't disagree more with that.
Wait, you're not supposed to use divinatory tools.
I'm not.
Is that what you're saying? According to
Yes, but then Joseph Smith did, but that doesn't matter, right?
Well, what's a patriarchal blessing?
Exactly.
Isn't that
exactly.
divinatory tools?
Well, it depends on who's doing it. If you're using the template or you're actually doing it right.
Do you want to explain what a patriarchal blessing is?
When a teenager is 12 years old, before they go into young men or young women's, they have the opportunity to have a patriarchal blessing. And that's where you go to a patriarch that's been set apart and is actually a patriarch for the area, for the stake, usually for his whole life, for the rest of his life. It's something that you don't get out of. And so all these kids will come to him for a patriarchal blessing, and he'll give this blessing and tell him, the lineage.
Adults can get it too, right?
Yeah. If they haven't had one. Usually you can only get one. I think it takes an act of Congress to get more than one. But what they'll do is tell him their lineage, that type of thing, anything that they have coming up in their future. I found it really super interesting to see a lot of people's were the same. There's a template from the church of, what's supposed to be in one. And a lot of people's have the very same stuff in it. And I thought, that's not super... that's not super divine or revelatory.
It makes me wonder if that's why they say, hey, this is just for you. Don't let anyone else
share it
read
with
this.
anyone else.
Because
Yeah.
they're all very similar.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of people keep it really, really quiet and treat it so sacredly. And then when things don't happen, they're like, oh well. Like mine.
Well, but it's not an oh well. It's like, oh my God, I must not be following God's law, and I must
I
not
must
be
have done something wrong.
I must not be good enough because these things didn't come to fruition, and it tells me that if I live faithfully, these things will happen. And then when they don't, that person goes, I'm not faithful enough.
Oh, believe me, I thought that. I was always told in my patriarchal blessing that I would be a leader among the young women of the church. I wasn't even allowed in young women's.
Well, you got knocked up.
I got knocked up when I was 16, but you would think with a daughter that I'd be able to, go into young women's with my daughter and go to camp and do those things, but I wasn't allowed to do any of that. And that was even after Corey was killed, and my daughter wanted me to be with her. So she stopped doing all those things and just came in with me and sat with me, which is a total shame. But apparently I have a black mark in my file for the church, and I'm not supposed to be around kids. I don't know.
Look, getting pregnant is contagious. Like one,
Right.
if
Shoot out bubble gum.
yeah, if somebody hears that you got pregnant when you were a teenager and out of wedlock and you were a very big sinner, and then, you made amends, well, that's going to be something that everyone will want to do.
But that's just it. If you've gone through the repentance process, how come it's held over your head your whole life?
Do you know what, Nan? Don't think too much in it.
I'm-
You're not supposed to
I'm just
analyze.
wondering.
You cannot analyze religion. You have to feel religion with the heart. That's been told to you. Like the Elder Holland guy,
Yep.
that's his big thing.
That's
you,
his big
You
thing.
can't be analytical about books and religion. You have to just feel it with your heart.
It's true. We probably should put a disclaimer on this.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I've offended anyone. I think Elder Holland is a big D-bag.
Yeah, he said some very untruthful things. And we can get into those untruthful things on another episode. We don't want to single out anyone. We know that we have still LDS people that are listening to our podcast, as well as people that have left the church, but that also have never been members of the church. So we want everybody to feel welcome, and we don't want you to feel like this is a negative thing at all.
No, it's really not. And look, you can believe in whatever you want. Just be a good person. And we've talked about that before. I don't really care. But if you're not a good person, I'll probably call you out on it because I tend to do that.
It's true, you do.
Yeah. I guess, does that make me not a good person?
No, I think you're a really great person.
Okay. Maybe I need to be a little more patient sometimes with
You just
people.
have 2 rules. Don't do stupid shit and don't be a dick. Those are your 2 rules for life. Right?
It's true. Just treat people good.
Don't do stupid shit and don't be a
Oh my
dick.
gosh. And I've met plenty of people who just continue to do stupid shit over and over and over again. Maybe we need to draw cards for those people and go, okay, here's your guide, right? I'm just going to draw a card for you for each month for the rest of the year, and you can see exactly what your guideline is. Just follow this.
Why would we make it easy for somebody doing stupid shit?
Because sometimes they need help to not do stupid shit.
No, I think they need to show up in their life.
Well, what's the difference between giving them help and helping them show up?
They need to want to show up and not be handed. Let's draw some cards.
Okay, what are you going to draw cards for?
Let's draw some cards for the Mormon Medium podcast.
Okay, so here we go. Nan is actually going to do a live tarot reading. Actually, this is a pre-recorded program.
This is pre-recorded.
Not necessarily live. But hey, if you don't know this, if you want to get a tarot card reading from the Mormon Medium, you can do that as a perk for supporting the show and buying the Mormon Medium a cup of coffee. Now, when we talk about buying her a cup of coffee, that really is just supporting the show, and the perk is you get a personalized reading. So go to the show notes, click on the link, or tap on the link if you're on a mobile device, and follow that to buy me a coffee.
Awesome. We would love it if you do that. So I have our first card for our podcast. It is the 10 of Wands. And it actually has a picture of a castle, and it looks like a guy with a red cloak on and he's carrying lots of sticks. You see this? Like
Those are
lots of
wands.
But there's like flowers on them and stuff. But his road is rocky, right?
His road is rocky and it's long. His cloak is a beautiful bright red, though, which is a powerful color, right?
It is. It totally is. This card, it talks about too many commitments. Got a lot happening. Remember when we first started the podcast? We had to like pick and choose what we wanted to do first, and everybody tells us to start videotaping what we're doing.
Yeah, and that was one of those things like, okay, we have to have everything perfect before we start. And
That's actually an Aries thing.
I agree. But we didn't need to have a perfect sound studio. We didn't have to have all the high dollar equipment. We didn't have to have, top end cameras before we started. And that was one of the things that we had to move past, is going, it's okay to take these things one at a time and jump in with what we do have.
And we've been super busy and had lots of awesome people reach out to us with great questions, and lots of clients, people that have wanted energy balancing and readings and things like that. There is like one underlying tone with clients and people that contact us, and they're usually people that are searching for their spiritual side. They're trying to find actual truth about their spirituality. I think it's beautiful, and that's what our purpose has been. So eventually we'll start doing videos and you'll get to see just how really weird we are.
Right.
Okay, so our second card is the Star. So it shows a woman with long blonde hair. Yeah. Pouring water into a river that runs into a lake. There's a stork by her and tons of stars. So this is one of your
Are
major
you getting
arcana.
pregnant?
I'm not.
Okay.
Not without a
That's
uterus.
the stork, right? Okay, that's actually a really, really cool card.
It's a pretty card, huh? That actually represents the month of January, the Aquarius. And what month did we start this podcast?
That first episode dropped just before January.
Uh-huh. So we started rolling in January, yeah?
Yep.
We're brand new. And this card, the Star, is healing and intuition and hope and peace and creativity flowing. So the flowing is the water flowing.
And
into-
this is a past, present, and future
Mm-hmm.
drawing you're doing, right?
It is. Yeah.
So the present is creativity and...
Creativity, intuition, renewal, hope and peace.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what does the future look like?
The future, we have the Six of Cups. You see this? How cute.
Okay, it's two little children, blonde-haired, tow-head kids playing in front of an old-fashioned water pump type fountain.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like they have cups filled with flowers, and they're next to a little stream in this green field with a small cottage house in the background.
So this could be like old friends, family members. I kind of feel like we found our vibe, so we are finding our tribe. Like I told you, there's that underlying feeling with everybody that's contacting us about the podcast and wanting to get in touch with their spiritual side. We're letting our imagination soar, right? And that's what it's about, and believing in magic again. So that's what our card is all about. So our spread's pretty cool.
I love that. That's a very cool spread. It sounds like good futures for the Mormon Medium podcast. So that means we're going to continue doing this, right?
Yes, we are.
All right. Awesome. Because it's fun. This is
It's
a great
fun.
date.
It's a fun date. And actually, Brad's been out of town for a week. So this really, truly is our hot date.
Yeah, for sure it is. You know, it's interesting that the tarot cards have had so much controversy over the years. And I think you hear names like Aleister Crowley associated with tarot cards because he used them for divinatory practices and for rituals and such. And so everyone automatically goes, oh, Satan. He worships Satan.
Aleister Crowley.
Mr. Crowley from the Ozzy Osbourne song.
Ozzy Osbourne. All right.
Yeah. So Aleister Crowley is
Okay. Yeah.
one of the famous occultists in
Isn't
Europe.
Isn't that your song today?
No, I just started singing it when we started talking tarot cards.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so Aleister Crowley got into spirituality and occultism and basically created his own religion or cult following. And he wrote a lot of books on divination and spiritualism. And
Sounds like somebody else we know.
who?
That sounds just like Joseph Smith, right?
Well, that's very similar, actually.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, bottom line, tarot cards are not evil. They don't call evil in. There's nothing evil about them. And especially, I mean, it's all about your intuition, right? I remember giving one of my teachers, she wanted me to read her cards, and I had a brand new oracle deck. They're not even a tarot deck. It's an oracle deck with these beautiful white lions and things on it, you know, water cards and things like that. Just beautiful. And she's like, do a 3-card spread for me. And I was like, okay. So I went to go get the book out because I've never even looked at the cards before. Right. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I haven't even read the cards. They're brand new. And she's like, put the book away. I want you to look at one at a time, look at the card. And
She's
so I
like,
looked
stop
at-
cheating.
Yeah. She's like, what do you see? And I'm like, crap. But after I got into kind of the feeling of the card, all of it came out, and it was all about some health problems that she was having.
Interesting.
Yeah, that she wanted some answers about health problems. She knew the questions she was asking. I don't know what the crap she was asking at all.
Yeah, tarot is pretty cool because it really does most of the time apply, right? You go, whoa, wait a minute. This is
But
This is this.
It makes sense though, right?
It
We're
does.
all energy, and we're just reading each other's energy. That's all.
Yep. Hey, you mentioned that Crowley sounded like someone else, so I hurried and looked something up on Google, and I want you to listen to this, and we're
Okay.
going to compare and contrast.
Compare and contrast.
Yes.
Okay.
Crowley's views and practices were often controversial and provocative. Now, I'm going to change the name in the first sentence. Smith's views and practices were often controversial and provocative. Could both sentences be truth?
Yes.
Okay. He believed in the existence of a spiritual realm beyond the physical world. Could we apply that to both?
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe that too, though.
And he saw himself as a prophet and teacher of this mystical knowledge.
That's weird.
You can literally just swap out the person, right? He also engaged in practices such as magic, drug use, and divination, which were considered taboo by many in his time. Now, look, I don't know about drug use, but we know that he definitely used divination and magic.
Yes. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I think that those kinds of things were really a part of the early church, right?
Very much so. Symbolism was huge, right? And there are a lot of very well documented symbolic and magical type situations in the church, right?
Right.
So,
Remember, even Brigham Young wore a bloodstone
yep.
because it kept him healthy. Remember?
Yeah, and
it's-
protected him from harm.
Exactly. And it's even on display up in Salt Lake City.
Yes, it is. And a lot of people look at that and go, oh, crystals are just, junk or garbage or whatever. And even by the church's handbook, that could be considered the occult, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yet here we have one of the founding fathers of the church who wore a crystal just for that type of protection.
Interesting, right?
Completely. So, Nan, this has been a really cool episode about cartomancy, which is the art of using cards for divination.
I love tarot cards. They are so much fun. So if you want to play with them, go to a metaphysical shop and See if one of them jumps out to you. The artwork is just beautiful, and just go practice your intuition. It's one of your heavenly gifts, and you shouldn't be afraid of it. It's not something to think that it's dark or evil or anything.
Buy local. So go to your local metaphysical shop, support your local merchants, and see what you can find. Let us know if you find an amazing tarot deck. Reach out to Nan and send her a picture of what you found and what your favorite card in the deck is.
Ooh, I would love to know that. I will share mine on one of the next episodes.
I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
I know what yours is. Yours has dragons all over it.
Not anymore. Now it has crows.
You do have a crow deck.
Yeah.
A murder of crows, and it is a right on the money deck.
It's true. Every time I draw a card, it's like, boom, there it is.
It's true. It's weird. I don't know how it works. It just works.
What you
Your
said about it.
intuition's honed in, babe. Honed in.
Thank you. I sharpened it on my honing stone.
I love it.
That's what they call them.
You're adorable.
Thank you. Nan, would you like to answer a listener question before we
Yeah, let's
shut
do
things
one
down?
before we shut things down.
All right. What broke your Mormon shelf and made you leave? Was there one last thing?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, answer that in the next 30 seconds.
If anybody knows me, you know that there wasn't one last thing. No. I'm an Aries, and so I let things build up and build up and build up and build up till they implode. And then when I implode, I'm either there or not. Things are black and white for me. I don't walk a gray line. So
What is a Mormon shelf? What does that even mean?
it means that you have these questions and then you look for answers, and then you're told by clergy or someone else, well, we don't know the answer, so you're just going to have to wait till you see God and you can ask him. So you're telling me that I can't have answers here on this earth. I have to ask on the other side when it doesn't matter. Okay, so it shouldn't matter, right? Like no. I had so many questions, so many. So they have you just put those things on a shelf, and then they pile up and pile up and pile up. And that's when your shelf breaks, when you just have so much. My very last thing, I think, that busted my shelf was I was always taught that the church would never ever tell me how to cast my vote because I'm an American. My vote is mine. My vote doesn't have anything to do with my religion, and that they would never tell me how to vote. But then I get this email telling me to vote against Prop 8 in California, that against the LGBTQ community. And I was like, what?
Yeah, it was the gay marriage proposition, right?
Yes. Yes. And I was shocked. I was shocked and disappointed. I still remember seeing that email, and I thought that they would never tell us how to cast a vote. But yet here they're paying all of this money and they're telling me what to do in a state I don't even belong in.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money in California, and they actually solicited funds, if I remember right, in that same email.
Yes. Yeah. So that busted my shelf. And then I ended up having some family members that ended up coming out as gay, and they got ostracized, and it broke my heart because, you know, you love who you love, and we shouldn't judge each other. We need to love everyone and help each other along. And I couldn't do that anymore. The church was wrong in how you treat people. Christ is not like that. He would not, you know, pull people aside because they're doing something wrong and then hate them for it. And, you know, he goes after the black sheep. He goes after the one. And I think that that's important. And that broke my shelf. I had lots of other things that piled up on the shelf first, though.
Got it. So what's one other thing that piled up on that shelf?
Where to begin?
Give me your top three.
Tithing was a big deal to me because I would see, we were really poor, and we would go without, like, we didn't have a lot of heat. We couldn't fix our heating vents. They were cracked. And so we had snakes and things come up in our heating vents. And so we'd heat
that's terrifying.
Yeah, we would heat our house by opening our oven door. And I remember there was ice on our bedroom wall, on mine and Corey's bedroom wall, and it was the furthest from the kitchen.
Wow.
Ice on the inside of the house.
It sounds like you were heavy breathers.
Yeah, right. But we paid a full tithe, and we could have, you know, fixed our heater or done so many other things rather than that. I have a problem.
Well, did the church offer to help you to take care of those things?
They helped us with food, and that was not to do with those other things. So
essentially you paid your tithing to buy your food from the church.
yes.
Huh.
Yes. And then I saw people that were even less fortunate than we were, even struggling more. And you should be able to make a living and pay for your things first and then pay your tithing if that's what you choose to do. So tithing was a big deal to me. The word of wisdom was a big deal.
Well, I think you missed a big part of that too. If you don't pay your tithing, you cannot
go to the temple.
Yes, you don't get the benefits and blessings of the temple, which is the main purpose in the Mormon religion.
Right. It's the golden nugget. And if you're not doing all of those check boxes, then you're not going to go to the celestial kingdom, which is absurd. It's absolutely absurd. I just, no.
Yeah.
It broke my shelf. No. And then I went to Nauvoo actually, and I went and I visited like the original Relief Society building, and the story about the word of wisdom, it just got my hackles up a little bit.
What do you mean? What's the story of the word of wisdom?
So the women and the men met in the same areas. The men would meet first before the Relief Society would go in and meet. And the men would chew their tobacco and spit it on the floor. And then the women would have to come in and clean up the tobacco before that they could have their meetings.
But you know what? I'll bet that stained that floor such a beautiful color.
Yeah, in spots, right? But can you imagine how disgusting?
That's gross.
Really? So Emma goes to Joseph and is telling him, you need to have the guys stop spitting the tobacco on the floor, or they shouldn't have tobacco.
Well, and it was basically a bar, right? They would drink their whiskey and spit tobacco and smoke cigars and cigarettes and
yeah. And so Joseph approached the guys, and the guys were like, well, if they won't let us have tobacco, then they can't have their coffee and tea. So, and then a couple days later, Joseph had a quote unquote revelation. How convenient. And all of a sudden you can't have coffee, tea, and tobacco. So, and it's just to keep the peace among the people, which if you really look at what the church does, that's what it does, right?
Calm wife, calm life.
It's true, but convenient profit.
Yeah, that's convenient.
Okay.
prophecy.
Those are my shelves. That's some of it.
So
I
word of
keep
wisdom,
going.
but you are a huge word of wisdom person. Like you wouldn't even allow a coffee pot in your home
No, not at all.
because that was evil
It was evil. Yes.
and contrary to God's will.
Yes. But then when I learned differently, it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. And then my last things, it was the very last things, is I had questions about what happened in the temple ceremony. And I'm not going to go into depth right here about it, but I had questions. And so I would go through a session, and then I would meet with the temple presidents in 3 different temples. So I gave different temple presidents opportunities to answer my questions. And none of them answered my questions. None of them. They told me that I had to ask God on the other side. And I was like, peace out. I'm done.
So basically, hey, I'm doing these things. Why am I doing these things? And they didn't have an answer for why.
Yes.
Got it. That's disappointing.
Yeah, 100%. And I wanted my gifts to be explained. How does this fit into my worldly life here? I'm not weird. I'm not crazy.
You are weird, and we've talked about that before. And it's okay.
I'm different.
So here's the thing is, do you think that part of the reason that they wouldn't discuss that with you is because in the church handbook, it talks about the occult and says, don't even discuss it in church buildings or meetings? Do you think that's why they wouldn't talk about it? Because they considered what you did what's the word they use? Imitation of the priesthood?
It could be. And the funny thing is, at that time, I wasn't doing anything. It was doing me. It was happening to me.
It was doing you.
Yes, it was.
Interesting. Is there anything else I should know
felt very
about?
done. It was happening to me right and left, and I was terrified.
Ladies and gentlemen, stick a fork in her. She's done.
So lots of things broke my shelf, and that's just a couple, but there were so many, so many.
Yeah, so your spiritual journey took a lot of twists and turns. Your shelf got loaded up before it finally came undone, sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. I am an Aries, so it's never, ever just one thing.
Nan, do you have any words of advice you want to leave for this episode?
Just to sum stuff up, tarot cards are not evil. So practice with them. Sharpen your intuition. It's one of your clairs, right? And have some fun with them. Practice who you are spiritually and be kind. Keep being kind to each other and be curious and not judgmental.
Awesome. Thank you. Don't be afraid to be who you are.
And you guys ask questions. Send us more questions. We love them. And we love being able to answer them on on air like this.
Absolutely 100%. Thank you so much for listening to the Mormon Medium podcast. We will see you on the next episode, and we'll catch you on
The other side of the veil.